everyone to the LTD Stiff Advisory Committee. I call this meeting to order. We'll go ahead and per the agenda, we'll start with roll call. And I'll do my best with names. So if I mispronounce somebody's name, please just let me know. Thank you. And I see we have some members online and a lot of folks in person. So I'm just going to go according to the agenda. Carmen Alexa Artiles.
Hi, sorry.
Okay, great. And Kelly Clark, I believe, is absent. Okay, Gino Grimaldi.
Here.
Hi, Gino. Joshua Kaczynski. Here. Thank you. Pete Knox. Here. Scott Lemons. Here. Bart Mueller. Here. Chelsea Miller.
Here.
Oh, thank you. Joshua Myatt.
Here.
Cosette Reese.
Here.
And myself, I'm here. Carrie Turner.
Here.
And Pridal Francis.
Here.
All right. Quick agenda review per the sheet you have in front of you. We have public comment coming up, and then we have 4 bullet points for agenda items, and then we'll cover future agenda items and adjourn. We're aiming for 6:30, and I'll do my best to keep us on track. If you see your agenda items, there's the time frames to the right. And I know there's at least 1 or 2 items that might be a little tight. So we're going to do our best to stay on track. So with that, let me open it up for any public comments. I'll open the public comment period. Anybody here for public comment?
We have nobody in person or online.
Okay, none noted. So I'll close the public comment. And we'll head into agenda item number 4. First bullet point, I'll hand it over to Kathleen.
Thanks, Dave. Well, welcome back, everybody. It's really nice to get this group back together again. I wanted to start out by just doing some membership updates. We had 3 members who had served their maximum 4 terms who have left the committee. That was Phil Barnhart, Susie Lacer, and Eugene Organ. And then Brenda Kosadar unfortunately had to resign because of a work scheduling conflict. So this summer we recruited 4 new members, and last week the LTD Board of Directors appointed 4 new members. We've got 2 of them with us in person tonight, and 2 are joining us virtually. So I thought there's some information in bios in your packet about each of our new members, but I thought we could start out by having them each take a couple minutes to introduce themselves, and then we'll go around the room so that all of you can introduce yourselves to them. So let's see, let's start with folks online. Carmen, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So howdy everyone. My name is Carmen Alexa Artiles. I am, well, how in depth do I have to go? So I'm the Community Development Director and City Planner for the City of Oak Ridge. My background is in geology, environmental, and just like interdisciplinary earth and environmental sciences. I've done, my previous job was with the National Park Service. I've done park planning, that sort of thing, trail planning. And on my free time, I like kayaking and painting. So if there's any more details that I may add, just let me know. But that's about me.
That's great, Carmen. Thank you. Chelsea? Is Chelsea?
Hello. Sorry, my printer is going in the background. I am Chelsea Miller. I'm the Director of Operations at the Eugene Mission. Do a lot of work with LTD. I'm also a board member for Everyone Village. Yeah, that's a very quick biography of me.
Thanks, Chelsea. Bart, how about you?
My name is Bart Mueller. I am retired journeyman manager for Pacific Power. I live in Florence for the past 16 years. I've been on multiple different nonprofit boards in town. One of my big ones is for 16 years, I was a driver for the Friends of Florence. which is the bus service that goes from Florence to Eugene and Springfield. I really enjoyed that. I self-termed out when I turned 70. I said, that's enough for me driving that bus. So, but yeah, me and my wife live in Florence. We love it. Weather's different, but we're both gardeners. We're both master gardeners, Lane County, and it's good.
Thank you. And Scott?
Yeah, last but not least, my name is Scott Lemons. I'm the Assistant Director over at Lane Independent Living Alliance. And I'm a graduate of University of Oregon. I did psychology and public policy planning and management, city planning, that kind of thing. I've served on the Human Rights Commission, Police Commission. Happy to be here.
Cosette, you want to start us out? Maybe like current members, you could just introduce yourselves and maybe share with our new members something you enjoy about being on this committee.
Oh, great. So I'm Cosette Reese. I work here at Lane Transit District. I'm the Director of Regional Mobility Services. I've been at LTD going on 30 years. My favorite thing about this committee in particular is that it creates accessibility and independence for people. So the work that we do here is not only fun, but it's so important and so valuable.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Pete Knox. I'm one of the two board of director members that are here today. I represent downtown and the surrounding area and or surrounding neighborhoods, rather. Sorry, or downtown Eugene and surrounding neighborhoods. What do I like about this committee? I'd say that I like to see what kind of future projects that LTD is really looking forward to do and how we're going to serve populations that might not necessarily be served well yet, and how we're going to do that for the future.
I'm Josh Kaczynski. I'm an associate transportation planner with Lane Council of Governments. I've been on the committee a few years now, and I think my favorite part of it is the insight you get into all of the programs LTD does that are not the bus. That there's a wide variety of transportation services that LTD provides, and you really get to learn a lot about those in this committee.
All right. My name's Dave Reeser. I serve as the transportation director at University of Oregon, and I've been there since 2018, but I've worked in this region doing mostly transportation planning, some land use planning since 2006. And similar to Josh, I've been serving on this committee for a few years now. And I think tonight in Nick's meeting, I continue to serve as the chair, but I think Kathleen will talk about some opportunities for others to serve as chair after 2 meetings. And something I really enjoy about this committee is just the multidisciplinary variety of perspectives on transit and hearing how transit can help folks we interact with. So.
I'm Carrie Turner. I'm a retired architect. This is my 2nd year on the committee. And I think what I've enjoyed most about this is, as an architect, I worked on implementation of a lot of LTD ideas and stations and things like that. And this has given me the insight to know how those projects ever even got close to being what they were when I found them. So this is fun to see the beginning.
Awesome. So, excuse me, my name is Vidal Francis. I'm with the Oregon Department of Transportation. I'm the Area 5 manager. I oversee, actually kind of responsible for all of the state delivered projects throughout Lane County that's on our state highways, you know, the construction of them and both the design of those. And the thing that I like about this, 2 things. One, obviously projects that come out of this or that we see through this group here. I think the perspective on the transportation options, the transportation situations that we have to encounter and adjust for, this is pretty great. The second thing I like about this group here is that the stress is nice and low. You know, I'm on quite a few committees, but this one here is just great.
You was low.
So, Thank you.
And Josh Myatt.
Hi, well, good evening, everybody. It's good to be here for another year. Second year STIF community member. My name is Josh Myatt. I'm a third year University of Oregon student for journalism at UO. One of the things I love about this committee is trying to explore ideas of how we can use the funding. One of them, which I'm excited to kind of talk about, looking through the materials today, is about the downtown circulator project, which is literally just a few blocks away from where I live, and just the way on how we can improve transit for people who depend on it, but also people who it can also turn into a first option for people who have a car.
Thanks, Josh. And Gino?
Hi, my name's Gino. I've been on the LTD board for almost 4 years now. I represent the Springfield district and up the river to the east. What I like about this committee and what we're doing here is we're really meeting the needs of people who sometimes have no other options in terms of transportation, and that's a real key ingredient to building a healthy community. Everybody needs to get where they need to go, and this helps.
Great, thank you. Thank you all. It's really interesting to hear what you like, so thank you for sharing that. The second housekeeping item I wanted to address tonight is our chair and vice chair. I have been doing a deep dive into our committee bylaws and realized that our terms for our chair and vice chair, terms for our chair and vice chair for 1 year, and that 1 year goes for a calendar year. So January 1 to the end of December. So right now we're in an unusual position where we're almost at the end of 2025. This is our first meeting of the calendar year. So we only have 2 months left in the year. And I just wanted to open the floor for any ideas. There are various options for how we could address that for the next 2 months and the 2 meetings tonight and December. See if anybody has any thoughts about the best way to handle that.
So since we only have 2 meetings and we have 2 people filling the chairs, it seems like if they're willing to continue to serve through the rest of this year, which is a couple of months, that would be a good, easy way to do it.
That's one option that I thought about. I want to make sure that there's nobody else who's interested in either of those positions at this time, and see if there are any objections to Cosette's.
I'm going to wrestle you for it. I think you guys are perfectly
What we
cool.
would do then is we're meeting in February of 2026, so we could open it up then. Anybody who's interested, I hope you all actually give some thought over the next month to whether you might want to serve in a leadership role, and we would have more formal elections at that point, if that works for people. Rosette, do you want to make a motion?
I would make a motion that we continue with Dave Reeser as chair and Josh Kaczynski as vice chair for STIF for the remainder of this year.
Second.
So Vidal.
I'll second that.
Excellent, thank you.
And we need a vote, correct?
Yeah, we need to do a roll call
Roll
vote.
call vote, okay. So, all right, I'm gonna read everyone's first name in the spirit of moving fast, except for the 2 Joshes. I'll call you my last name. All right. Let's see, Carmen, your vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Kelly's absent. Gino?
I vote yes, but I thought I was a non-voting member, but
Oh,
Correct.
you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. My bad.
no problem.
All right, thank you. Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Pete?
Also not.
Oh, non-voting, you're non-voting, thank you. Scott?
Yes.
Thank you. Bart?
Aye.
Chelsea?
I think I'm non-voting.
You're non-voting, thank you.
Chelsea votes.
Okay,
do.
You do vote, Chelsea?
oh, you do.
I'm going to say yes then.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you, Kathleen.
Yep.
Let's see, Mr. Myatt?
Yes.
Thank you. Cosette?
Yes.
Dave, yes. Carrie
Yes.
and Vidal.
I would
You're-
say yes.
You're a yes. That's right. You seconded the motion. Awesome. All right. Motion passes. I'll be chairing tonight and the next meeting. Josh will be vice chair, and then sounds like we'll open it up after that. Right.
Like I said, I hope everyone will give some thought to that. And if any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk. I'm happy to talk about more about the committee and what those roles involve.
All right. Great. Thank you, Kathleen. Moving down our agenda, we have Anna with us from Oxley and Associates, and looks like you're here to talk about the 2025 legislative updates. So take it away, Anna. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for the introduction. My name's Anna Sovereign, and I'm an associate here at Oxley and Associates. We are LTD's contract lobbying firm, and we represent them in Salem. And I'll also say you're very well represented by Sam when he's doing his work as well, which is pretty much all the time. So I'm happy to fill in for him today, but as you probably know, there's no replacement for him. He has an excellent job representing you. So I just want to make sure to get that in there. I know this group has a range of familiarity with the most recent transportation package, but I'm just going to kind of give some background of the last year or so, what happened during the legislative session that was earlier this year, and then what happened in the special session, and then what that means for LTD, but also for this committee as well. And if there are any questions at the end, of course, feel free to ask them. I'm here as a resource. So with that, I think the place to start really is with 2024 actually is when conversations started to really ramp up. The legislature knew that they needed to have an updated transportation package to continue to fund ODOT. They held several listening sessions across the state to find out what Oregonians wanted to prioritize, what they wanted to see funded, and hear about ways that could be done. So that the goal of those listening sessions was to feed into the 2025 session, where there would be a package. Was there? I heard an alarm. Okay, sorry. But as the package was developing behind the scenes, it kind of became an elephant in the room, so to speak. It was something everyone knew was happening, but we weren't quite sure what would be included in that package. And for those of you who don't know, in odd-numbered years, the legislature meets for 6 months at a time. In even-numbered years, it's a short session, so it's a 35-day session. So this year was a 6-month-long session. So it was 6 months of kind of wondering where this package was going to be, what was going to be in it. And of course, we were advocating for at least maintaining the STIF and increasing it if possible. So overall, though, throughout the Capitol, the big uneasiness amongst especially Republicans, but also moderate Democrats, was taking a tax vote. So any increase in taxes in the legislature requires at least 3/5 to be present. And so it made people very uncomfortable to have to take a tax vote in a year where Oregonians are really feeling that cost in their pocketbooks. There was a bill introduced that was very quickly, for lack of better words, dismissed because there weren't the votes for it. But on the last day of session, the governor came in and introduced a bill that would have at least been a temporary Band-Aid, as they saw it, to fund ODOT and maintain several hundred jobs that they needed to maintain. That bill, as I said, introduced on the last day of session, would have been a 3-cent gas tax increase, and ideally would have saved ODOT jobs. But that bill also didn't make it. So that was rejected by the legislature. And then fast forward They adjourned the legislative session. Democrats had to go back to the table. The governor called a special session that would begin on September 29th. And typically special sessions are less than a week, but a few factors led to it being quite a bit longer than that. So the special session was called for yeah. Am I right here? My timeline's off, sorry. August 29th, so it was Labor Day weekend. It didn't conclude until September 29th. And so essentially what happened is that there were a handful of negotiations to get a quorum for the bill to be voted on. There were not enough Democrats present for passage immediately in the House, but they did get everyone there within a couple of days, and it did eventually pass out of the House in a 36-12 vote. There was one Republican that voted yes on the bill, Representative Javity from the coast, and there's one Democrat that voted no on the bill, Representative Hartman from the Oregon City Gladstone area. So from there, it would have moved to the Senate, and it technically did, but one member was out due to complications from a surgery. So they had to wait until he was well enough to make it back to the Senate floor for the vote, which eventually happened on September 29th. And then in the Senate, it passed 18-11, completely on party lines. So that's kind of an overview on how we got to the package, how it passed. And I'll just dive into what is included in the bills. It was House Bill 3991, and what that means looking forward. Does anyone have any questions yet? Am I talking too fast? No questions. Okay, great. So House Bill 3991, you'll hear a lot of different numbers thrown around. You might hear the $4.3 billion number as the revenue generated. That is over the next 10 years. So, and the main focus is on road maintenance for the most part. So it still has the 50-30-20 split between the state, counties, and local government. It imposes a 6-cent gas tax increase. It increases vehicle registration fees by $42. It increases title fees by $139. It adds in, so as vehicles become more efficient in gas and as more drivers begin to use electric vehicles, the gas tax becomes a little bit less and less effective at generating revenue. And so they accounted for that by adding an increased, they increased the electronic vehicle surcharge by $30, and it phases in a road user charge for EVs and high efficiency vehicles. And the part that I'm sure you're all just chomping at the bit to hear about is the STIF increase, which I think is a really big win, especially for transit, of course, because that's where it's all going. So Section 24 specifically in the bill increases the STIF by 0.01%. So it effectively doubles the STIF, which is a huge win. We were hoping for more, but it's at least something. The only kicker is that it does sunset after 2 years. So the increase will be effective starting January 1, 2026, and then the increase will sunset on January 1, 2028. So it'll go back to the 0.01 that it is today. That's what the bill does, and that's what has passed. It is not law yet. The governor has 30 days to sign the bill into law. The politics of things right now and where the uncertainty lies is in a potential referral to the voters. We aren't exactly sure which parts of the bill would be referred to voters, but we know that especially the gas tax increase and the payroll tax increase that is the STIF are two things that Republicans have been adamantly opposed to. And so Representative Ed Deal from the House, he's from the Staten-Salem area, and Senator Bruce Starr from the Senate, he's from the Miami County is most of his district. They're leading the charge for the referral. And so we believe it would be the payroll tax and the gas tax, but we're not completely sure. They have to collect a certain amount of signatures. It's 78,000 signatures in order to put the referral on the ballot for Oregon voters. But they can't begin collecting signatures until the governor signs the bill into law. And she has 30 days to do that. So she can wait 30 days and cut into their time because they have to file the petition within 90 days of the bill being signed into law. So there's a complicated timeline battle, for lack of better words, happening kind of between the lines here, where if the governor waits the full 30 days to sign the bill into law, that would leave Representative Deal and Senator Starr with just 60 days to collect 78,000 signatures. So they believe they can do it. We're not completely sure that they will be able to, but if they are, that would put elements of the bill, we're not quite sure yet what would be referred, but it would put that on the ballot for 2026. And that's where things stand right now. So as of right now, we are really hoping that, the bill stays intact and it is signed into law, and we are able to get our STIF increase effective January 1. But it is yet to be seen what will happen. And that's kind of it from me. I know I'm leaving you on a cliffhanger. I didn't write this story, but we are in the middle of it right now. But are there any questions from you all? Yeah, Joshua.
Yes, thank you. I do have one. Could you touch more again on the road usage tax? Because obviously, the gas tax can apply to a lot more things, but because of the, increase in high efficiency vehicles and electric vehicles, on how Oregon is kind of trying to collect the, I guess, equivalent to the tax for that in order to be used for any ODOT or STIF funds, basically.
Yeah, so I to be fully honest with you, don't have the specifics of the road user charge in front of me. I do know that it will be phased in over time, and so it won't be an immediate road user charge for all users. But my understanding is that it would still go to the state highway fund the same way that gas taxes do. And so it kind of equals out that balance of who's paying into maintenance of our roads.
Okay, but it sounds like essentially there's a plan to where it will equal it out as opposed to just having a gas tax essentially paying for everything?
Exactly, yeah. It's trying to capture that. I mean, the way I think about it is people using the roads, of course, does more damage to the roads. And so it's trying to kind of equal that usage and paying for fixing the roads with vehicles that are not paying into the system the same way as everyone else right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Other questions for Anna?
Anna, I had a question about the STIF payroll tax increase.
Yes.
If that is referred to a ballot measure this November, are there any provisions where that increase would be put on hold while it goes to the public for a vote, or?
That is a good question. I will have to get back to you on that. Okay. My understanding is that the bill would still be, and I believe this is how it has worked with previous referrals, is that it'll be one of two scenarios. Like you said, it would either put a hold on it, where they wouldn't be able to put it into law until there's that vote. So voters would get to decide if the bill becomes law. I'm not sure what that would do to the timeline, if that would mean, because if there's a sunset in 28 and then there's a vote on it in November, maybe then that would mean there's 1 year of the STIF increase. I could see that being the more likely scenario just on how others have worked. Or if the bill would go into effect and then when voters vote on it, it would undo the implementation of the bill. I apologize. I should know the answer to that.
No, no apology needed. Thank you.
All right, other questions? If not, we'll continue on in the interest of time. Actually, one quick question I have, Anna, will you, or is it Sam, you said, be able to give us an update on the December 2nd meeting?
Yeah, another legislative update.
Yeah, if we find, if there's activity that we hear about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will, I don't know Sam's schedule for sure.
Sure, okay.
I would presume yes.
Okay,
I don't want to speak for him, but I will let him know that that has been asked.
Okay.
Once he's back, and we'll get back to you all on that.
All right, thank you, Anna.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
All right, bye-bye. Let's see, next on our agenda, and we are right on time. I'm pleased as the chair, is we're going to invite Brandon Melton, Eugene Downtown Circulator Pilot.
And I'm just going to pass the buck to Brett Smith.
Right,
He's actually
Brett.
the project manager. I was a
Okay.
placeholder, but Brett's, project manager on this. And so he's going to go over Downtown Circulator, just kind of about the project and sort of how it's been going so far.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. That's where you want me. You want me up there?
Yeah, are there microphones probably up there, right, to help with our online?
I'm pretty loud, so.
All right, that's fair.
All right, I'm gonna stand kind of to the side if that's all right.
Sure.
I do better standing than sitting, but anyway, so if we can go to the next slide real quick, just a reminder, this project that was funded through STIP dollars fit our mission right on the spot. And so it was one of the great things about this project is just figuring out ways to connect our community better. So go to the next slide real quick. So the question then rises, how did we get here and why are we doing this project?
Sorry to interrupt. We have a question online.
Yeah, Joshua, your hand's up.
Oh, sorry, that was my bad. I think I forgot to lower it. Something happened. No, keep going.
Okay, thank you.
All right, no worries. So why we're doing this project. So there was a study, the city of Eugene did some studies around just looking at folks around the neighborhood, how they got around in downtown. We did our system-wide review. We did some other surveys and different things. And that with the development of downtown Eugene with more high density and stuff, especially down by the riverfront and stuff like that, and the new city hall and all these different things. And folks are just saying, we just need something with short trips to get around and something to be able to just go to the pharmacy or go shopping or get to the riverfront or stuff like that, rather than have to take one bus and another bus and, to keep going back and forth. So that all stemmed around this project coming forward, and thus we came up, or the city of Eugene in partnership with us, and we kind of came up with this plan to rewrite how we do Route 1. So in that, we went through and we were able to get our discretionary award of about $1 million. And then we also took the cost it takes to run Route 1, and we did basically 100% match. And in doing so, to be able to create what you started out with the Downtown Eugene Circulator Project, but it has been renamed the Downtown Loop. So next slide for me, please. So this is both routes. So the original route you can see with the dotted line, Route 1, it ran about 10 trips a day, hourly. It basically just was a service that connected this area up by the Campbell Center with Yappoa and River Park Terrace down to Eugene Station, basically to connect onto other routes, basically to get around. So in the study, they discovered that there was just this lack of these short trips, like down into Midtown and different things like that. So we ended up, through collaborating with the city of Eugene and stuff, and lots of meetings, trying to figure out on a route. And we came up with this particular route, which allows accessing Riverfront right up here, as well as the new city.
City Hall.
What's that?
City Hall.
Yeah, City Hall. I always want to say courthouses, but it's City Hall. Anyway, and then it also accessed some other pharmacies like Hiram's, Safeway as a grocery store, as well as pharmacy. I actually learned the other day, and I was not aware of this, it actually accesses 4 different pharmacies now. And well, I know it sounds like a lot, but you know, if you're in some of these lower areas or these upper areas with affordable housing and stuff, sometimes getting to the pharmacy is a big deal. And so it's being used regularly for that. So it's kind of fun. I've had a great opportunity. I've gotten to ride on the bus numerous times. And I'm just going to tell you, with the increased connectivity, we went from 10 trips to 21 trips per day now. So it's running half-hour service. We expanded it an hour on Monday through Friday, and we expanded it 2 extra hours on Saturday. And then Sunday actually also has 30-minute service. So it's not just a weekday thing, it's basically 7 days a week. So next slide. One last thing about it too is, actually, if you go back a slide real quick, I want to this particular stretch through here and through here, we got all kinds of buses going through there in those areas. So it also created some connectivity without them having to everybody to go back to Eugene Station to connect to stuff. So through some creativity, you can get around and access pretty much most of the city in just off of this particular route. So, all right, next slide now. So we came up with a name. I was not involved in the name. It was marketing from both LTD and the city of Eugene. By the way, just kudos to the marketing team. They did a phenomenal job. One of the areas that we were most concerned about was Campbell Center because the loop no longer goes up to 2nd Street. It just stays on 3rd. And everybody, they got to Campbell Center, talked to folks, and encouraged them, and they were really excited about the 30-minute service. I think they were uncertain around Campbell Center being served, but we've actually received no negative feedback on that since the route started. So anyway, they did a downtown engagement surveys and outreaches. They sent out postcards. They talked to people in, I don't remember how many different venues, but numerous venues that they talked to as well. And basically the targeted audiences is all the residents and visitors and people who live and breathe downtown Eugene area. How do I get around here quick and easily? So if you go to the next slide there, this is a little bit of some of the promotional information that was put out. Meet the Downtown Loop, and you can see with the Downtown Loop logo, if you are driving around town, you'll see it on top of the poles. So we actually branded the actual sign itself. So moving on to the next slide, because this is really what everybody wants to know, is how's it going? We started it on September 7th. We don't have a lot of data yet, so I'm going to caution you on these numbers. Well, it looks great. A month's worth of numbers is not sufficient data, right, to draw any real conclusions. However, we get what are called customer input forms on a regular basis, and rarely do we get compliments. Most of the time it's, I want something or we don't like something. That's usually how it goes, right? I got to tell you, I've only had this happen one other time with another route change we made over in Springfield where I got compliments. We've had, I think, 4 very specific compliments so far. They love the frequency. They love the access. The access is the big deal, really. Being able, you start out at, maybe you're up at Yopoa and you want to go grocery shopping, you jump the line, you go out to Safeway or wherever and do some shopping, and you come back, you get on the same bus back to Eugene, and we took it one step further. We actually blocked the vehicle together on all trips. So basically what that means in our language is we're using the same bus over and over again. So if you ride our system, you know when our buses come in, the bus changes to a different route generally. So it does not happen on Route 1. So if you get on it, say at Yopoa, you go up to Safeway, do your shopping, you go over maybe onto Oak Street, you jump back on the bus, it comes to Eugene Station, and it continues back up to Yopoa to drop you off with your groceries. So they really, really, really like that. this is just some quick numbers to give you an idea. This is where we were on a weekly average. This is kind of deceiving. This is the total week on average. The dates were approximately the same dates from a year ago on Route 1. And you can see that in green, there's a pretty significant increase in ridership on this. So stay tuned, I guess, would be what I would say. We'll see after a period of time. We have, if you want to go to the next slide for me, we have lots of things ahead. We obviously started all this back in May, and we did the community outreaches all before we even started it. But some of the questions are always, what is the actual goal of the project? I mean, we know why we want to do it, but how do we measure it? What do we do? And basically, in measuring it, it's considered a community route. So we can base it off of productivity, which is basically revenue hours divided by ridership, that type of thing, or the other way around. And you get your productivity. But it's a connector route. It's a route designed to the community. So we're mostly going to be looking at, we will look at productivity and we will look at numbers and aspects of ridership. I believe our STIF application goal was either 3 or 5% increase in ridership. We well met that already. So with a little bit of data, but we want to know if the rider is happy with it. Do they like what they're doing, what we're doing with it? Are they happy with it? Is there something else we should be looking at or doing? So that's where our marketing team comes in. They're going to continue marketing this. They're going to do some surveys and different things as time goes along. So there's also questions around facilities. Do we maybe develop the facilities a little better at some of this the shops or some of the stops? So those are all things we're looking for. I ride the bus fairly often right now, trying to just see how folks are really liking it now that the newness is starting to wear off and see where it kind of settles down at. So next slide. And that's it. So any questions?
Thank you, Brett. Questions? Yes.
Could you elaborate a little more onto the partnership with the City of Eugene, like what the roles are, and is that going to be a continued partnership?
Yeah, it will be an ongoing partnership through the pilot. Remember, it is a pilot, which means in 2 years, which would be, well, not even full 2 years, but in the summer of 27, we have to figure out how we're going to continue this based on the surveys and stuff. Do we need to go after more STIF money? Do we need to figure out how we're going to fund it, and will it look exactly the same? And so those are some questions that we have to determine. But with the City of Eugene, yeah, we're working with them very closely on this, and we'll continue. They're as much of a partner in this as we are. They actually are the ones who submitted the original request, and then LTD, there was a bunch of juggling around, and anyway, it ended up in our direction more and stuff. But it was all based on the one study that Eugene did. I think, was it called I don't remember. I think it was called it might have been the Move Eugene Planning Project or something like that. Is that what it was?
It was the Downtown Transit Study.
Yeah, they just were looking to see how we can make downtown better. There's a lot of stuff happening. A lot of affordable housing going in, especially up around 4th Street. You've got the whole riverfront project area and stuff. So yeah, we're going to be continue to be working closely. They are awesome partners. I work with Jody more directly on this project and stuff. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, go ahead, Pete, and then we have Joshua online as well.
So let's pretend this doesn't work out well, and in 2020, at the end of 2027, or whatever, you look at the data and you go, it just doesn't seem fun. Does the original Route 1 come back in its original form, or is that going to be a whole nother discussion?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Maybe we missed the boat on something, right? Maybe we didn't quite get access the way people wanted after it's all done and settled, and maybe we go back and revisit another pilot around it. Or we keep it the way it is and we figure out how to fund it. Most likely it will stay very similar to what it is. We might just have to reduce service maybe if we don't have enough funding to operate the 30-minute frequency. I think it's going to be successful. It already acts like it is. Folks are really, really happy about it so far that we've talked to. But it is a fair question, right? I mean, what if it doesn't?
Right, and the reason I asked that is that one of the reasons that the old one existed was to really serve that. There's a low-income building that I think there's quite a bit of disabled people and stuff that don't have access to vehicles and stuff. So those, I want to make sure that they continue to have access to transportation.
Yeah, so some form of Route 1 will probably always continue. So it's not going to, like, if it doesn't work, we're just going to, you know, scratch it off as a route that never comes back again. Like you said, there's too many folks up in that area that don't have good transportation options up around 4th Street, 3rd and 2nd Street up there. There's also more affordable housing going in right on 4th Street here before long.
More of that.
So it's not going to go away. It just might look different if in the future possibly. But right now, I'm optimistic that it's going to continue the way it is because I like seeing smiling faces and happy people, and they're very happy right now.
Yeah, I'm optimistic too. I just want to ask that question. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have time for one last question. I see Joshua Myatt with his virtual hand up. Joshua?
Yes, I do also want to add on the virtual optimism on that as well. I do want to just briefly mention, I do love the added frequency between Eugene Station and 18th Street, especially between Oak and Pearl on a, sounds like an area of South Eugene that hasn't really been served on a weekend basis, except for the couple of routes that operate during the weekday. I also want to really compliment the team on making an adjustment to a current route instead of just adding a brand new route and trying to, you know, create a brand new route without, you know, adding additional costs, if you know what I mean. My one main really question is, I guess I kind of want to piggyback off of Pete for a second. I know we want to try to make sure that you try to want to keep as much of the realignment on Route 1 as possible from previously when it served Campbell Center and until now with the downtown reroute. I also kind of want to realign with the addition to the University of Oregon campus as well, like UO Station, not necessarily Dad's Gate, but, you know, trying to serve at least part of 18th Avenue, which is that South University area, and possibly seeing how that might be beneficial of the downtown loop as well, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, those are all great questions. I mean, if we had all the resources, we could easily just add another leg to it, right? Or we could maybe increase the length of the route and add more additional buses and stuff like that. This was what we were able to get out of this particular project with what we had to work with financial wise. Will we have something else down the road? Possibly, but I know that we will be doing another system review. We're going to do them every 3 years, and those are questions that we definitely ask. What else can we do, and how can we do it better? So I don't think I answered it, but I can. That's kind of the direction I think we'll be headed in with the next review as well. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brett. Appreciate that. And we'll wrap up that agenda item. Moving on to our next one, we're going to welcome Brandon Melton again. And this is to cover the LTD Coordinated Human Services Public Transit Plan Update. That's a full title.
You're going to think of me as pass the buck Brandon Melton, because once again, introducing the real presenter now. So my name's Brandon Melton. I'm a senior planner here at LTD and helping to manage the project of updating our coordinated transportation plan for Lane County. And this plan is required for us receiving 5310 funding. So that's, you know, overall why we keep it updated. It's intended to be updated every few years. But I think in essence, the plan serves as a means to identify what services we have in the county, It looks specifically at folks that are older adults and folks with disabilities and see what services they have access or don't have access to with our existing transportation system. But Dan's going to go ahead and go through presentation on this. We're working with Dan Callister. He's a senior planner with Lane Council of Governments, and they're assisting us with updating the plan. So he's going to go ahead and walk through just some of the details, and we'll both be here to answer questions. Merritt? Thank you.
Just a quick item. I wanted to ask the folks online, is it better to have our speakers at this end, or does this work for you? Just noting where the camera is.
Something like this.
Yeah, there you go. If you could look that way. All right. Thank you.
I don't have a loud voice, so I don't know where the microphones are, but can people online hear me okay?
It's been working for me so far.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as Brandon said, my name is Daniel Callister, Senior Planner at the Lane Council of Governments. I'm the project manager for the Lane Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan, which we refer to informally as the Coordinated Plan. This body serves as a steering committee for the plan's development, and we're going to be meeting a few times with the STIF Advisory Committee over the next few months to provide some updates on the plan's progression and also to look for feedback and direction from this group. So feel free to speak up. To that end, however, it's going to sound like I'm rushing through some parts of this. I kind of am. I mostly just want to make sure that you're familiar with what kind of material is in here, and make sure that we have plenty of time at the end for discussion. So, a lot of the material that you're going to be seeing at this meeting and at our future meetings is going to be in very draft form. I'll show you a timeline later, but you'll see that our last meeting is several months before the plan is actually finalized and adopted. So we want to be sure that we're meeting with this group in a way that we can incorporate your feedback and direction meaningfully before it's too late. So can we advance the slide, please? Yes, thank you. So I'm going to be talking about, I didn't realize these all started with P's, but I'm going to be talking about the 4 P's here. At a high level here, just the purpose of the plan, what it does, what it doesn't do, and what it is and what it isn't. Also, just a project overview to give you an idea of the plan and its purpose. There will be, after that, these next 2, these are kind of preliminary elements that set up kind of the plan development. So you have a policy assessment, and I'll go into detail about what that is, and we have developed a public involvement plan that's going to kind of outline how we're engaging with stakeholders, which is a pretty significant part of this, Can we advance the slide, please? So, purpose of the plan. So LTD receives funding from a variety of sources. A significant source of that is the Federal Transit Administration. A lot of the FTA funding that LTD receives comes from various subcategories or sections or different programs. Each of those have their own criteria for eligibility or own focus for how those funds are to be used. So this item is Section 5310 funding. That is the funding that is of importance to this effort. So Section 5310 funding is actually a relatively small portion of LTD's federal funding, and it is a program specifically to improve transportation services for older adults and people with disabilities. So developing a coordinated plan that identifies and prioritizes 5310 projects is a requirement of Section 5310. So to use 5310 funds, those projects have to be included in a coordinated plan. So if we're talking about requirements, the purpose of this plan, a huge one, is satisfying the federal requirements so LTD can continue to invest the 5310 funds. I also want to be very clear here that the coordinated plan is not a general plan for LTD's system. It is a plan that is focused on improving mobility for older adults and people with disabilities. Now, it can be more than that, but it does have to be done. It is recommended that the plan be updated every 4 or 5 years, or a cycle that matches the Metropolitan Transportation Plan cycle, which is about 4 or 5 years. And the current plan was last updated in 2019, so it's due for an update. And it's important to keep the plan up to date so that it can continue to be useful for improving mobility of older adults and people with disabilities. Can we advance the slide, please? A little bit more about Section 5310. It is called that because it is Section 5310 of Title 49 of the United States Code, which is titled Formula Grants for the Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities. It can be used for capital projects like purchasing accessible vehicles, for wheelchair securement projects, for facility improvements. It can also be used for operating assistance, but all of the uses need to help connect older adults and people with disabilities to housing, jobs, healthcare, and their other essential needs. So the STIF advisory, let me see. Can we advance one more slide? Sorry, last slide. That was the backwards. I told you to advance what I shouldn't. Forward. So you'll see this final bullet here. I mentioned that I talk about why we're coming to this group specifically, and also that the coordinated plan can go beyond 5310, or at least 10 focus. So the coordinated plan is going to include prioritization of projects that may be funded with 5310 and or STIF. That there's some efficiencies to be gained to having this group serve as the steering committee. The plan could be catered in a way that could be useful to this committee for making recommendations for STIF funding. So that's why we're here today. Now can we advance the slide? Here is just a quick high-level overview of our timeline and sort of the elements that make up this plan. There is a more detailed timeline in your meeting packet, page 26 of your meeting packet. You can see this is about a year's worth of work. We're 4 or 5 months into it now, but we've still got a lot ahead of us, including the bulk of the public engagement. And I'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But the policy assessment is an item that I will address in just a moment. That has been completed. The next 3 items there are really going to rely heavily on our stakeholder engagement. So you'll also notice, it's in the more detailed timeline, but not that one. But this group is going to be meeting today, but also in December and in February. And the timeline goes well beyond there. So when we're meeting in December and in February, we're going to be presenting some of the drafts of these the existing conditions, the needs assessment, coordination practices, and we'll still be developing those items. So what we'll be presenting is not just drafts, but kind of, we'll be analyzing the input that we've received through our stakeholder engagement at that point, and kind of making some educated guesses, but still it's going to be a malleable, element that we're going to be adjusting as time goes on. The final 2 elements are going to be pretty straightforward. The end of that timeline is really once we have a pretty finalized document, we can do our public engagement with the adoption through the policy, or through the LTD board. The policy assessment now. Can we advance the slide? I said it was going to sound like I'm rushing through this, and I kind of am, but I do want to get to hear from you guys. So the policy assessment, this in your meeting packet, starting on page 17, is a 9-page document titled LTD Coordinated Plan Memorandum Number 1. That's the piece we're talking about here. As it says, the purpose of this memo is to document the requirements of the coordinated plan, as well as policies that ought to be considered in the development of the plan, and assess how those are met and or addressed in the 2019 plan. So really it's an inventory of what is required of this plan, and then looking at the 2019 plan to see how it did and where we can improve. The first 4 pages or so include a table with 2 columns. The left column lists the requirements, federal requirements, and the right column is the assessment of the 2019 plan. Overall, the 2019 plan is fine. It got the job done. It allowed LTD to continue to invest the 5310 funds, so that's good. There were some areas that could be improved. There were some areas that maybe the requirements are satisfied, but it wasn't articulated necessarily, and we'll want to clarify that, I think, in this upcoming plan. On the second page, there was a particular item about midway, an assessment of available services that identifies current transportation providers, public, private, and nonprofit. This really wasn't addressed in the 2019 plan. There were some notes provided by LTD staff for how we can improve that. That would be. Beyond the federal requirements, we identified a lot of best practices or recommendations and suggestions about how these ought to be carried out. Those will be taken into consideration. There aren't any state requirements specific to the coordinated plan. It's a federal thing. But since we wanted this to be relevant for STIF programming as well, at least on some level, we did include an inventory of STIF requirements. We want this to be consistent and, like I said, useful for that purpose as well. It was also good practice to just review LTD's policies that are related to this as far as regional policies. Any programming of federal funds has to be consistent with the regional transportation plan and included in the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program. So that has been the case in the past, and I'm sure that will continue to be the case, but it's good to be aware of those guides. Ultimately, it's good to be familiar with the requirements. We want to be aware of the best practices and the recommendations, and to just ensure that we're mindful of the locally established policies. So here's kind of the meat of today's presentation is, next slide please, the public involvement plan. This is where I think today at least your input could be most helpful. I'm actually not the best person to present this plan. The LCOG staff who developed this plan no longer works at LCOG. They've moved to Washington. So as a project manager, I am now the best person to present this. So I'm going to do my best. I won't get into the weeds, but I want you at least to be familiar with what it is and how it's laid out, how we're thinking of things, and there's plenty of opportunity for it is all based on and consistent with LTD's community engagement framework. Guiding principles in the background and purpose from that same framework. There's, starting on the 5th page, which is page 31 of your meeting packet, there is a stakeholder mapping section. A big part of that is using the American Community Survey to report some statistics here about certain demographics, age and disability, of course, but also race, limited English proficiency, income, zero vehicle households, and comparing those statistics from Lane County and Oregon State as a whole. Where you see a cell that is shaded in blue, that's where the Lane County statistic is higher than the state statistic. There's a population forecast on page 35. On page 36, I want to point this out in particular. So Link Lane is a transit service that operates from Eugene to Florence and from Florence to Yachats, operated by the Lane Council of Governments. In 2023, they completed a development plan. And part of that, they did some outreach and identified some needs. So that is of particular interest, I think, to our efforts, since we're going to be doing something very similar. And they did not narrow their study area just to that corridor, but included a broader focus, a broader lens. So For example, under some of their findings, under the needs they identified for underserved areas and populations, they've included Oak Ridge, Marcola, they've identified Crestwell, Junction City, Harrisburg, Springfield, and some of their conclusions I think will be pretty useful to our efforts. So that is a helpful resource that we have. This part I think will be particularly of interest to this group. So on page 40 of your packet begins this identification of stakeholder categories and specific representatives for those categories. This was put together incorporating both requirements and suggestions of the Federal Transit Administration, as well as the stakeholder categories and agencies suggested by LTD's Community Engagement Framework stakeholder mapping section. Here we have transportation agencies, human service providers, but of course also older adults and individuals with disabilities. We have agencies and organizations that represent passengers and advocates. They represent education, healthcare, social services, housing, and then sort of catch-all other category that includes things like emergency management, tribal representatives, and faith-based organizations. It's a good start, and we'd love your input on this. And this is something we're looking at more closely, definitely as we're starting to engage with these groups and think about how that is going to look and how to do that most efficiently and effectively in a way that's going to be most useful for the development of this plan. On page 48 of your packet, one that looks like the food pyramid, it's where the outreach and engagement strategies are identified. It lists out that we're going to have these 3 state advisory committee meetings, as well as advisory body meetings with strategic planning committee, with Lane Act, with the MPO, meetings with rural and tribal communities, project website, which we're in the process of developing right now, surveys, social media outreach, live events. There is an engagement schedule on page 50, and the final page talks about how we're tracking progress. I will be reporting feedback and understanding who we have successfully engaged. So what we're really looking for is ideas that you might have for effective engagement, particularly with these target communities, older adults, people with disabilities. That's the presentation. I would like to open up a discussion at this point.
Can I add real quick before we get into it too? And we had this discussion at SPC that you know, that we want to meet the letter of what's required. And this is a very specific plan with a very specific purpose. And to that end, I think we're interested in hearing what the general public has to say. There may be some individuals that are interested in this work and this planning, and there will be some effort to reach out to the general public through surveys. We're going to have a website, and we're going to promote that. You know, options for input, and to track this project throughout and consider those things. But really, we want to focus on those key stakeholders, the service providers, representatives from special interest groups that are related to older adults and people with disabilities. So just wanted to frame just kind of how we're approaching public outreach before you share some of your ideas.
Great. Thank you both. We'll open it up for questions. Maybe I'll start out by myself just saying it's a really impressive list of stakeholders you have. It looks really comprehensive, very broad. And, you know, when I look at that, I just am reminded that these different groups of individuals, I think when we do outreach, it's really important to, you know, do a broad range of types. So online survey you mentioned, website, but also in person, going to where some of these groups might be. So not just waiting for them to kind of engage, but LTD, LCOG going to them, like maybe senior centers, things like that. is always important and appreciated, I think, for engagement. Other thoughts or questions? Yes, Vito.
Yeah, I'll add just a thought in there. And I would understand that the public engagement, although you're reaching out to everyone, you want to be specific to those groups that was 5310, I think, that's identified. It would be nice in this outreach that you're able to do some level of, I'm just going to say it this way, branding as you're doing the outreach, because I know that what resonates with a lot of folks is if they could understand, and this is just me saying this broadly here, if they know that this transit option to get on this bus, or however LTD is kind of doing this, is an option of choice. Everyone's heard the term employer of choice. And I think somehow if we can brand this as we reach out to them, that this is a, I don't know, method of travel of choice. This is me kind of saying it this way. And I think if we could do some level of branding as we're doing that outreach, that would help you go a long ways. And because again, a lot of folks that we do reach out to and we have that conversation with them, it's really them reaching out to other folks for us. And so if we could get them to not only have them be, ride for us, but also advertise or reach out for us because they recognize that this is the choice that I want to ride and go and so forth, I think that would take us a long way. So again, this is just kind of conceptual. I may not have the right answer, but I think if we could do something similar to that, that would be very helpful.
Yeah. And this is still kind of in the works, but we've started to develop some questions for some potential, survey questions that are looking at, how is the transportation system in Lane County working for you, or how isn't it? It's really identifying the gaps in our transportation system specifically for older adults and people with disabilities. And so I think we're thinking in that lens of like, yes, sometimes it's a choice, sometimes it's not. So I think we want to ask questions in that way of, are there certain ways that you can or can't get around? And then what are your options in that context? So I think I think that kind of lines up with what you're getting at, maybe.
Right? Yes.
We have a question online from Gino.
Oh, great. Yes, Gino.
Could you describe the geographic area that we're looking at with this work?
Lane County.
Lane County. Okay, with that in mind, it'd be nice to come up with some specific organizations. I'm thinking up in Blue River, anywhere up to McKenzie, the Mohawk area, maybe bring in the Mohawk schools into that conversation. Same thing with Lowell schools, just to get a little more representation of the outlying areas.
Likewise on the coast, the city, subdivision, which interacts with a bunch of stuff, that would be a great idea.
Yeah.
Because you show up like at the event center with the program, you'll get a response.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we do have some of the ways that we're thinking about reaching out to rural places can be difficult just by its very nature. So I think we've talked about doing some not virtual events, but having posters in prominent locations to draw people in and provide context in that way, and some other outreach methods to kind of draw those groups in. But yeah, Slow Vision is a group that we've worked with quite a bit. Yes, obviously the city governments are good to reach out to as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gina. Carrie?
I've heard some other presentations of folks who do public outreach, and they've spoken a lot about the value of, say, having an open house or something at schools, and especially if you can provide any sort of childcare, so that the parents can participate without having to worry about who's going to babysit their kids, and then it's a fun thing for the kids to get involved in. So I always think of it as, if you can recruit kids to get excited about riding the bus, their parents and their grandparents will be too, because then they can all do it as a family. And then the other one, I've only just briefly skimmed the list, but has there been any thought about reaching out to some of the medical providers? Because I think a lot of these transportation options are sometimes medically related, but people could get to their appointments on the bus, which would probably reduce a lot of stress on them and their families if they knew, oh, I can just get there this way, and expand that knowledge. And if the medical providers could maybe help their patients understand, yeah, you can get here every Tuesday and here's how you do it, that might really be helpful.
Yeah, I think they're important stakeholders in this as well. Make up to include them in those conversations. And I've experienced too with different healthcare professionals, sometimes they'll even ask, was transportation a part of, a barrier for you to get to this appointment? So that's information we're interested in understanding.
Great. Yes.
So yeah, just looking it over, not like her just skimming it, but it is hard to get to the rural folks. I saw that you had Crestwell Chamber of Commerce on there, but that's just representing business interests, and I don't think that's going to be right for 5310 funding. But there is a group called the Family Resource Consortium in Crestwell. That might be a better place to go. It's a group that helps out low-income folks and people with disabilities in Crestwell. And then when it comes to just general strategies for outreaching to these target populations, I do agree with David that you do have to go out and meet them where they're at. Lila and the ARC of Lane County, we've done multiple listening sessions with the city of Eugene. And when it comes to like communications and branding, I would suggest leaving it to the organizations because they really do like know their population. And there's different learning styles, different processing speeds, things along those lines. So leaving the subject matter experts to, leaving that to the experts.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Scott. Other questions, comments? Right. One question I have is just related to process. You mentioned this committee will serve as a steering committee, right? And you'll come back next meeting and beyond that. Aside from us, having these conversations with project staff, then as we get near the end, is this committee at the end making a recommendation to the LT board, or how does that work exactly?
Yeah,
You said yes.
I believe that would be the process. So this is, and I meant to mention this, that this is the first time that we're actually, say, utilizing the STIF advisory committee as a steering committee for this. But, as we were looking at updating it, it made a lot of sense just with the makeup of the group. And, I think Dan touched on it, but a lot of the 5310 funds are used to match STIF projects. And so it was it made a lot of sense to bring those two things together because ultimately this document will help this group, guide this group in making some of the decisions you do when it comes to programming STIF.
Thanks. Okay, great, thank you. Any other comments or questions on this topic before we move on? All right, well, thank you both, appreciate it. Let's see, looking at our agenda, next item is future agenda items. Kathleen, is that you?
Sure, and Dan, I thought actually it'd be while we have you, you can talk a little bit about what you'll be presenting at the next STIF Advisory Committee in December, if you have some thoughts about that.
Yeah, let me consult my notes. I believe that is going to be, I think it's in my timeline here. So yeah, that will be an evaluation of existing conditions and needs assessment. So we're working hard on that to have something that we can present to this group. When would we need materials to you by?
I can talk to you about that. Yeah, but I can talk about that after we coordinate that. But we'll make sure that we get materials out to all of you in advance so that you can take a look at them before the meeting.
And as I mentioned, those will be very draft at that point. Plenty of time for steering us. So We'll appreciate whatever feedback you can provide at that time.
Great, thank you, Dan.
And then in terms of other agenda items, I think we'll keep an eye on what's happening with that transportation package, particularly around the stiff payroll tax increase. And we'll have Sam or Anna come and join us again if that's appropriate at that time. And are there other things that folks here would like to talk about, or projects that we helped fund last year that you would like to get updates on? Like, for example, I brought in the downtown circulator this month because we had, you guys had all looked at that project last summer. I don't know if there's anything particular, or if it's just nice to have an update on what's going on with those stiff dollars.
A specific project.
Okay, I'll come up with some ideas.
You could cherry pick, you know,
Okay.
make it a treat each time or
Okay,
something.
excellent, thanks. I will do that. Okay.
All right. Well, we are a little bit ahead of schedule.
And let me
Anything
just
else?
remind folks, our December 2nd meeting, our next meeting, will be here, right? Yes. Yes, our plan is that we will be here at the Next Stop Center again in December. If that changes, I will let you all know, but we'll try to be consistent and keep you updated on
It's a
that.
pretty convenient location, I think. Did this work for everybody?
Yeah, it works for me. I live a couple blocks away.
Oh, perfect. All right. Say no more. All right, great. Well, unless there's anything else, Kathleen, from you, we will go ahead and adjourn at 6:21. Thank you.
Nice.